He is a member of the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. He's a two-time NCAA National Championship coach, and he's an author. Rick Pitino is his name. Coach Pitino, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Terry.
You have written many books over the years. This one I really, really enjoyed. It's called The One-Day Contract, How to Add Value to Every Minute of Your Life. And this one you kind of worked on for a few years, didn't you?
I did, and Eric Crawford was great to work with. He did a lot of research for me. I've always believed in this philosophy. It stemmed from many years ago. My brother-in-law was complaining about a long-term contract signed by this guy, John Konkak. I think it was a pro coach at the time, and he was saying, you guys are ridiculous. You pay these large sums of money to these pro athletes, and they only average 2.5 points a game, and I don't understand it. And I said, well, you guys sign contracts on Wall Street, and his response was something I'll never forget. He said to me, we're only as good as our last trade. That's what we base our life on, the last trade we make on Wall Street. And it always stuck in my mind. And the one-day contract really is based on if you had one day, whether you were a salesman, a radio superstar like yourself, a TV superstar like yourself, an athlete, pharmaceutical sales, a basketball coach, whatever it may be, if you have one day to get your contract renewed, how would you prepare the night before? How would you focus? How would you network? How would you handle adversity? How would you listen to other people? How would you go about that one day to get your contract renewed? And basically, it just takes you through what you need to do to get that contract renewed, and also to look at life in one day and stop worrying about the future, stop fretting over the past, and just get on with the next day and be the best you can be, and you'll find extraordinary results. And Terry, I can honestly say I've lived it the last 2 years on a one-day contract, and I've really, really appreciate all the things that have happened.
But I've known you 20-something years, and you are very buttoned up. You are very scheduled. You're faithful about your exercise and what you're going to do at this time and this time and this time and this time. So you're an organized guy. Do you think it's a bigger challenge for someone to sort of change and learn these principles, say, once they get into their 40s or 50s?
Well, I think it's essential to get the most out of it. Everybody wants to get the most out of their abilities. Now, you can't be 100% 7 days a week on a one-day contract. Obviously, there are times, and I point out in the book, that you need some meaningless distractions or meaningful distractions to the tough game of life, and certainly that gets you rejuvenated to come back, just like we're getting ready to come this weekend with practice. So there are a lot of things that go into it. The book starts out, the first chapter is based on humility. And before anything else, before you can heed signs in your life, whether to go, stop, or whatever it may be, you need humility. And without humility, you can't live on a one-day contract. It teaches you to listen. It teaches you to understand what roads to travel, what roads not to travel. It teaches you how to deal with, I tell our players all the time, if you have an ego, you're edging greatness out. And if that ego comes into play, you think you've arrived, you stop working, you stop relentlessly pursuing some of the things that you need to pursue to become great. And so it starts with that chapter, and I think that's really the segue into the other chapters and how to relive the one-day contract.
We're talking to Rick Pitino, who's the author of The One-Day Contract, How to Add Value to Every Minute of Your Life. The book's just being released right now. You can meet Coach Pitino Thursday at Molly Malone's in St. Matthews at 7 o'clock, and he's signing copies of the book only. Not basketballs and other things, but signing copies of this book come Thursday night, St. Matthews, Molly Malone's. Now, Coach,
they're going to Barnes & Noble's going to sell the book there as well, Terry.
Okay, very good. Coach, you were talking about ego and humility, but you're pretty hard on yourself in certain ways in this book. I mean, you talk about how you were living many years in your career without humility.
Yeah, it's when I was at Kentucky, it's not that I was showing levels of arrogance or anything. It's just that you were in such a cocoon that you didn't recognize things around you. It's just that it was just all about winning, and it was all about what you were doing, and there wasn't enough of understanding why you won, why you lost, what goes into it, and there's a lot that goes into it, and it's just recognizing everybody completely on the team, and that goes with the fans, that goes with the band, that goes with the cheerleader, that goes with everyone. and it's just a total team effort. And everything that you accomplish, it has to trickle down to every member that had something to do with that championship. So it was arrogant. There wasn't enough humility, and you have to learn it sooner or later. And it's much better learning it at this stage of your life, because without it, you can't truly be successful.
Do you feel like you are a different guy than you were 10 years ago in terms of your vision of the world?
Oh, I would say without question. It's because you and I have talked many times. As if you coach 10 more years, you coach 8 or 7 more years, whatever number it may be. Depending on what day it makes you realize that your window is obviously closing. So the most out of it. Enjoy the people around you. That's one of the things. I would never take time to enjoy the people. It was just 100% between the lines. Let's get after it. Let's focus in. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's so many special people out there to meet and to interact with along the way, to include in on your team. And we have it with our friends at the Ville Group. It's a very big part of our team. They help us maintain the level of excellence we need. So it's just something that I've enjoyed doing.
Well, yeah, and you talk about a lot of your friends in this book, too, like Ralph Willard, for one. Didn't the power go out and the VCRs didn't record the games? And so he slept there to make sure the power wouldn't fail again?
Yeah, I was a little too hard on him back then.
You were pushing people all the way through. I remember Tubby Smith talking about sleeping in the offices because he wanted to make sure he wasn't late for early morning basketball games.
He would sleep, and Donna would tell the story. He would sleep with his jockstrap, sweat socks, and sweatshirt on, so he wouldn't be late for the 5:45 basketball game. And Tubby would come in, he wouldn't even stretch him. Donna told me, he said, "Rick, I got to sleep with a man with a jockstrap and sweatshirt all the time."
All right, you are not a fan of social media, and the book gets into this, too, how important this is to get away from being locked into that device in your hand. This is powerful. I think that why this book is so great for anybody who leads a company, particularly when you have 20-somethings coming into the fold, because it's a whole new world for them.
Well, it's just, I call it the trap of technology. I believe it's chapter 3. I love social media. I love technology. It's great to have at your fingertips any answer that you need, except I went to my players and the other day in a meeting, I said, "Guys, how much time do you spend on social media?" They admitted this to me, so I know it's much more. They admitted 4 hours a day, and Chris Jones said, "I'm on it all day long." I said, that is truly a trap. And what happens is you really forget how to communicate. And communication today, those skills are really, really important to prosper, to get jobs, to understand how to interact. And, these guys, they don't get that, and I make them do that. I make them put their phones away. The other thing, Terry, I think the phone, the iPad, and all the things that social media is all about, I think that's an addictive thing for everybody. I mean, we have a family rule that we don't take our phones to dinner. We don't look at our phones. We interact the right way. And I think everybody's constantly at the dinner table looking at their phone. I went to dinner the other night in Miami with an adult. The adult was a wife of the person I was with. Now, she was from another country, so maybe it's okay in their culture, but she was texting the entire dinner. And the husband and the other couple and myself, we were all talking basketball, talking business, and she was texting the entire time. I was flabbergasted at the entire experience.
I know you.
But that's the trap. That's the trap of technology. It traps you into constantly looking at your phone, and it stops you from interacting. And one of the rules in the book is when you're in somebody's company, that person is the most important person in the world. And that's the way you interact with people, as if they're the most important person in the world. You'll have plenty of time to check that phone.
When you go and talk to these recruits, at what point do you let them know they won't be on Twitter when they're a Louisville Cardinal?
When they get there.
That's important. All right, we have scrimmages coming up this week. Oh, first off, is Luke Hancock okay? I heard a few things.
Luke Hancock is fine. We're being very, very careful. At the end of the season last year, he had some ankle issues, and we are just making sure he's 100%. He's working out, he's shooting, and he's doing very, very well. It's just I don't want him running and pressing and going through our early practices. I want him getting into it because we locked him down for about 30 days without. So I don't want him going into these 100% all-out full-court pressing practices. I want him to build into it. But he's fine. Somebody may see him on a day when we are going through certain therapies on crutches for one day, and then they panic. But Luke is fine. He's going to probably start actively playing in another 10 days. But he's working out individual instruction, doing drills, and doing all of that. It's just I don't want him in a full-court pressing running situation right now.
We know we have a scrimmage at the Yum Center coming up this weekend, but tell me about the double sessions this past Saturday. What did you see? What are you learning about your new guys?
I like the fact that they're very quick, very athletic. Now, we're going to miss Peyton Siva and Gorky Zhang. There's no question about it. And what we're going to miss, the obvious thing is they're two NBA players, but what we're going to miss is an incredible attitude of Louisville first, everything for the team, everything for the university. It's all about the team with those two guys. We have the talent to replace those guys. Do we have the attitude to replace those guys? And that's the questions that only time will tell you.
Does Russ help there?
I think Luke helps more than Russ. Russ is in his own, he has another planet that he lives on. And I don't know what that planet is, but he lives on a different planet. But Russ is, everybody loves in practice Russ's energy, what Russ is all about, Russ's desire to win, his competitive nature. But Russ is not going to be concerned like Peyton was about every little thing that the other guys are doing right or wrong. That's where Luke Hancock will come in more.
You're strong at every position, though. You're feeling good about this team this fall.
I am. We'll probably, Stephen Van Treese and Mango both look good. I was concerned about that. Wayne Blackshear looks very good. It's the best he's looked since he's been here. And there's no denying, Terry, these new kids are very, very talented basketball players. Now, they have to, from an attitude standpoint, they have to make certain adjustments so they understand what Louisville basketball is all about, but that's no different than any incoming freshman at junior college. But they are very, very talented, Terry, and I'm looking, although it'll be a rough red-white scrimmage, I'm looking forward to watching these guys get out there and compete.
Hammer it out. All right, Coach, great. Appreciate the time today.
Okay, Terry, good speaking with you.
See you. Take care. That's Rick Pitino, and he is on the road. He's chasing down another recruit today. You can see him Thursday night at Molly Malone's on Shelbyville Road in St. Matthews, 7 o'clock. His new book is called The One-Day Contract, How to Add Value to Every Minute of Your Life. Just Google One-Day Contract, Rick Pitino. Get a copy of that. He's signing copies of the books Thursday night. And then next week, there is a University of Louisville Kentucky Author Forum where a reporter for the New York Times is going to ask Rick Pitino questions on stage at the Baumard Theater. We're going to give away tickets for that every day this week on the show. That'll be October 9th. But meet Rick Pitino this Thursday, Molly Malone's, 7 o'clock.